The good thing about Mondays is we get to look back at the big moments from world sport from the weekend. And we had big clashes in the EPL, especially between Arsenal and Chelsea. The continent's finest athletes ran in the London Marathon, and the Nigerian star has been on fire in the NBA playoffs. Plus, we look into the draw for the UEFA Champions League. Lots to discuss. They say the art of conversation is to talk about the right thing at the right time, and this is the right place. You're watching The Conversation. Welcome to The Conversation. I'm Ehi Alonge, and in the studio with me, our regular guest, Carlos Salvador. Carlos, hello.
Hey, Ehi.
Thank you for being with us again. Now let's start with Chelsea, who took another step towards clinching the Premier League title after a goalless draw at Arsenal ensured they remain 10 points clear at the top of the league. Let's take a look at some of the results from the weekend. So on Saturday, we saw a 2-2 draw there between Southampton and Tottenham, very key to the battle for a UEFA Cup place, possibly Champions League. The more optimistic of their fans will be hoping. Another key result there, Man City's win over Aston Villa, permutations at the top and the bottom of the league, as well as Stoke City-Sunderland, a result that saw Sunderland dragged back into the bottom three. Looking ahead to Sundays, well, the key draw there we were just about to go into, which is Arsenal-Chelsea, but I also suppose we do need to mention the effects of that Everton-Man U game, 3-0 there to the Toffees. So, Carlos, before we actually look too deeply in it, obviously we can safely say now Chelsea got the least worst result they needed from the weekend. But the fallout from that has been quite interesting. Jose Mourinho having a dig at the Arsenal fans for their chance of boring Chelsea. Obviously, a lot of historical animosity between the two managers. Do Chelsea deserve the boring tag the way they've played the last two matches?
No, I don't think so. I think Mourinho's done a wonderful job, as has the Chelsea team. In all reality, he started the game with Oscar, Hazard and Williams. So he didn't start the game with a view of looking for the draw. And if you look at the exchanges early on, Chelsea were the better team. They had about 3 or 4 penalty claims in the game. So they went out to attack. I think what changed the game is obviously Oscar having to come off because
concussion.
Yes, Ospina trying to take him to his grave somewhat early. I think they had to make the change. In comes Drogba. And with Drogba playing, tactically you have to be somewhat different. He hasn't got the legs to do what the younger players do.
I mean, another point, though, is that even some people have been talking about it in terms of the style of play since the turn of the year, where Chelsea started the year very expansive, Fabregas. I mean, we can use Fabregas' form to highlight that. Started the year, assists everywhere, great through balls, and then since then, not so much. However, if you look at the team that their fellow professionals nominated for the Team of the Year this year, 6 Chelsea players in it, plus Eden Hazard actually nominated last night the Premier League Player of the Year. So a much-deserved title-winning team and definitely not boring, according to their fellow pros.
No. Very deserved, both Hazard and the 6 players in the team. I think what people are also forgetting is that, they've lost Loic Remy, they've lost Diego Costa, who up front was allowing them to be expansive. If you haven't got those 2 guys on your team and you're looking at Drogba to come in, then you're going to have to start changing things, and I think they've done that perfectly.
OK, let's have a look at the table whilst we talk about the form actually of some other members of the top 4. I actually want to pick out their Man United, Liverpool. Perhaps Arsenal and City could be drawn into it, but Man United and Liverpool, at least the battle for top 4, it's not yet set, is it? Man United would really have suffered from the 3-0 defeat at the hands of Everton.
Yeah, I think Liverpool's lost a bit of a chance there. I don't see Liverpool capitalising on that. I think Liverpool needed to beat West Brom this weekend in order to have put the amount of pressure needed on United. United's got West Brom, Crystal Palace, Arsenal and Hull. So I see them getting enough points to make sure that they're in the top 4.
And can Arsenal fans, I mean, they've got a game in hand on City. Can they be rest assured that they're going to qualify for the Champions League? I mean, they would be happier with second than in any other position in the top 4, I would imagine.
Yeah. Arsenal was always going to finish in the Champions League. They've done it year on, year out. I think for Arsenal fans, it's all about coming second place and winning the FA Cup.
Let me ask you, we've got 2 clubs who spent 100 million in 2 different seasons. Tottenham 2 years ago with Gareth Bale money, Liverpool last year with Suarez money. If neither club finish in the top 4, which of the 2 clubs should be more disappointed?
I think Liverpool will be more disappointed. Brendan Rodgers.
They've had injuries. They've had Suarez gone. Sturridge has been out for most of the season. Gerrard lost a bit of form in his goodbye season. I mean, they've got a reason perhaps for the non-performance compared to last year. Whereas, you see, people always say you spend a lot of money, you need time to bed those players in. So those Tottenham players have had that season now to bed in.
But the manager hasn't. You know, they've brought in Pochettino this summer, so this is his first season. He's trying to bed in his philosophy in terms of how the team wants to play. I think Tottenham still have too many players who aren't actually good enough, and you know the price tag that they were bought on is more inflation of the marketplace as opposed to the quality of player.
Okay, so you're a United fan. Any danger that United is going to drop out the top four, or City perhaps?
Absolutely not. I think it will actually be those top four. Chelsea winning, of course, but in terms of second to third, who knows?
Okay, let's look now at the bottom half of the table and see how the teams there are faring. Now, we talked on Friday about the relegation 6-pointer between Burnley and Leicester. Then we see that Sunderland, based on the results around them, have fallen back into the bottom three. First, let's start with the Burnley-Leicester game. Perhaps wasn't the game it was built up to be in terms of, but understandably, as a relegation 6-pointer, was it a deserved victory for Leicester? Even their manager perhaps felt they didn't deserve it. But 4 wins in a row does give them the momentum, which is key at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, once you've won 4 games in a row, you deserve it. And, you know, they needed some luck, and they got the luck. Obviously, Burnley missing the penalty, and then a minute later, Matty missing the penalty, and then a minute later, Vardy scored a goal. Within the goal, there was deflections. There's a goalkeeper saving on the line, and of course Vardy, you know, knocking it off his knee. So Leicester, you know, they had a bit of luck in the game, but I also think they played well enough to win the game. Schmeichel made some superb saves.
He was fantastic.
Reminded me of his father, actually. So, you know, I think Leicester do deserve. You can't win 4 games in a row and not deserve those points.
Okay, now let's look at teams that might be drawn back in. Hull, we thought might be drawn back in, but they had a good, strong result against Crystal Palace. However, Newcastle have lost all momentum, lost all spirit, and I kind of highlighted that on Friday. But looking at it, I think it's safe to say, despite our hopes that something does work out, QPR and Burnley are pretty much on the way back to the Championship.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Obviously, I've called QPR to step out of it over the last couple of weeks. I didn't count on the refereeing. I think QPR were robbed. You know, the goal that was scored there by Richard Dunn, Carl Henry on the goalkeeper, you have to challenge. Didn't look much in it at all.
The goalkeeper's always protected. I mean, that happens in every game, whatever they.
Unfortunately, so. But you'd like to think with the ball, you know, the ball in the box and the goalkeeper, the referee just outside the box, you should be seeing that there was no real challenge there for a team to score a goal, needing the 3 points, and to be ruled out for that on a goalkeeper, ridiculous. I also feel that Aston Villa actually big robbing. You know, I think Benteke was taken down by Joe Hart.
That was true, but the whistle had already gone. Okay, because we're going to come back after the break and talk about the Champions League and look at some of the big games we highlighted before the weekend in Africa. I'm going to ask you now, last Friday I asked you for the bottom 3. Now I'm going to ask you one team, one name now, who's going to join QPR and Burnley on the way out of on the way to the Championship?
At this moment in time, I'll say Sunderland.
Okay, let's leave it there. Sorry, Mackham fans, it looks like it could be you according to Carlos. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the conversation. It's the Zambian Premier League next, and in the big game we previewed ahead of the weekend, Power Dynamos escaped with a fortunate 1-1 home draw on Saturday after they rallied to hold promoted Mufulira Wanderers and Kitwe. And here are all the ZPL results. Looking at that, we had Lusaka Dynamos another draw, and Zesco United in a powerful home victory against Red Arrows in a result that many had foreseen. And also at the bottom there, another key result for the table, which is National Assembly and their 1-1 draw against Konkolo Blades. And it was also a 1-1 draw for Petro Atletico and Primero de Agosto in Luanda on Saturday, another game we were excited about. Looking at the weekend's fixtures from the Angolan League, not only did the draw happen on Saturday, but on Sunday we had quite a few low-scoring matches. I guess the standout result for us, looking at it, would be the 2-0 away win for Sagrada Esperanza over Deportivo Huila. It's Champions League European style now, and Barcelona manager Luis Enrique says facing his old friend and former Barca coach Pep Guardiola in the Champions League semi-final will be a special game.
When you play a Champions League semi-final, there is no favourite at all. We're going to take on a tough team. They have a lot of experienced players that are used to playing this kind of matches. They defend very well. They concede very few scoring chances. They close down their opponents very, very well. So it is going to be a good and even tie. Every detail is going to be important.
We know that we have to demonstrate to play on the best level we can. the same we played last Tuesday against Porto in the first half. We have to play at this level, not just 45 minutes, but twice over 90 minutes. And then I think we will reach the final. But also Barcelona has to play at the best level they can do.
Carlos, I mean, we could focus, if we wanted to, on the challenges between both teams. But I actually think there's a more interesting subtext here, which is the return of Pep. It's a bit like having one child at home that you're training and the other child that's gone away and is coming back. He's in a unique position where his style of play is still heavily influential at Barcelona. And it's quite clear that he's trying to bring in some of that style and he's revolutionized possibly the way Bayern Munich have previously approached matches. So which of his two clubs, in light of Pep's return, which one of his two clubs is under more pressure? Barca to prove they've moved on, or Bayern to prove they're as good as his former pupils?
I think for Barcelona, having two coaches who've come through La Masia and coached within their setup, based on that, it really shows that Barcelona's football is very important within Europe and the way football's being played. In terms of who's under more pressure, I think Pep's under more pressure. He's gone into a Bayern Munich team that was winning Champions League, that was winning the league anyway. He's gone in there and changed the style of play. He's forced a new, more tiki-taka way of playing football, which, not all Germans took a liking to. And, without winning the Champions League this year, German fans, Bayern Munich, will be saying, well, why did we change coaches when we was actually already winning the Champions League?
But, I mean, within that, Bayern Munich, they did have a period where they got to a few finals. I mean, they did that in the late 90s. Everyone remembers in 99 with United, and they did that again in the early 2000s. But moving away, as I said, what I'd like to do actually, because obviously the two teams, they both want to win. Whether you're Suarez or whether you're Robin, it doesn't matter. You want to win wherever you're playing. Robin has played at big clubs all across Europe. It's not different. But focusing on, as what you said, on the legacy issue, taking aside the club itself, just for Pep, he is under a lot of pressure at Bayern because he's rubbing a few noses up the wrong way. His physio's just left, the head medic. We know, as you said, that the German press have been slow to take on this new style. He's hampered by the fact that he doesn't have that much domestic competition. I mean, is that something that you think will count? They've already won their league. Barcelona is still in a very competitive situation.
Yeah,
Do you think that might count against Bayern?
I think that's advantageous because it means you can rest your players and wait for the bigger games. And their bigger games now is all about the Champions League. I think with Luis Enrique, it's different. He still needs to be competitive within the week-to-week games left in the Spanish league to make sure that they win that. He also had the opportunities, Luis Enrique, to win the Spanish Cup. And so the Champions League could equal a treble in your first season. He's also a coach who's got the best starting record of any previous manager. So in terms of legacies, they've all, both managers have legacies that they can make based on these, those two games.
Okay, so in a word, before we look at the other side of the draw, who's going to win?
I think Bayern's slightly my favourite on this.
Really?
One. Yeah, slightly strong. I think they slightly got more discipline.
Okay, well, we'll tweet Messi about that. Let's look at the second side of the draw now. And can Madrid find success against Serie A leaders Juventus and become the first club to retain the trophy in the Champions League era?
When you play a Champions League semi-final, there is no favourite at all. We're going to take on a tough team. They have a lot of experienced players that are used to play this kind of matches. They defend very well. They concede very few scoring chances. They close down their opponents very, very well. So it's going to be a grueling tie, a very even tie. Every detail is going to be important.
After 12 years, it's really important for us to be here. Back in the semi-finals, it will make our team improve a lot. We're really happy to get a chance to face Real Madrid.
Okay, Carlos, Barcelona and Madrid are still in the race for La Liga, and though many feel that Barcelona's form means it's guaranteed. So if Barcelona are indeed favourites for La Liga, with a European pedigree obviously to take into account, is this Real Madrid's best chance for silverware this season?
Yeah, I think so. I'm definitely one that feels that Barca will win the league. So for Real Madrid not being in the cup final in Spain, this is pretty much what they've got to go for. I think the club is based on European trophies anyway. So if you win the Champions League, no one's going to complain about not winning the league. So yeah, I think this is what their season will be built on.
But then at that point, you make about the Champions League focus, and for a while, Madrid had the focus on La Decima, which was winning the 10th European title they had, and they won it in a season where Atletico also won La Liga. And some analysts and some Spanish watchers actually felt that Atletico took some shine away from Madrid because for the fans, the week in, week out competition of La Liga is always supreme. So is there a danger that by focusing on what is in effect a knockout competition now, Real Madrid are actually in danger of ending with nothing this season?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of them being second fiddle to Atletico, they won the game that counted. They're still in the Champions League, and if you look at Atletico Madrid, they won't be winning anything this season. So I don't think they've got a problem as far as being the better team this year in Madrid. In terms of them going for another title following the Decima, it's what Real Madrid do. I think they had an all-Madrid derby last year. We have an opportunity for a Clásico final this year.
I mean, you're talking about the opportunity for a Clásico final, but they've got no Bale out injured. They've probably got no Modric out injured. Then they've got, that means Pepe or Ramos in midfield. A few challenges. But, I mean, by you talking about a Clásico final, can I take it that you're therefore predicting that even despite those injuries, Benzema probably being out as well, it's Madrid's to win this tie against Juventus?
Yeah, I think they are slightly favourites for me. I will have to say that it's great to see Juventus back in the Champions League semi-final, and it's rejuvenating for Italian football. Obviously, they've got Fiorentina in the Europa Cup, so well done to Italian football also.
Okay. We'll leave it there. When we come back after the break, we're going to pick up on the London Marathon and some NBA action. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the conversation. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge won the men's London Marathon with Ethiopia's Tigist Tufaa victorious in the women's race. Kipchoge, the 5,000 metres world champion in 2003, finished 5 seconds in front of Kenyan athlete Wilson Kipsang. Kipsang, the 2012 and 2014 winner, came home ahead of world record holder Dennis Kimetto, which completed a Kenyan 1-2-3. Here are some pictures and tweets from the day. Okay, Carlos, on Friday I actually had the honour of speaking to Wilson, well, actually he was in the back of a taxi at the time about the race, and I must say, going into the race, I thought really it was his time. He seemed very confident. But Kipchoge actually, he's not that unusual winner. He's won 3 out of his last 5 marathons. It's his first London win. But there's something I thought was an interesting contrast that you might have picked up there, which is that in terms of the development, they're 2 very different styles. Kipchoge, as we just mentioned, is an ex-track athlete who's done the classic for many top marathon runners of going from track, running as many miles as you can on track and switching. Kipsang's not quite the same. I mean, did you pick up on how that changed, or what that brings to an athlete?
Well, I mean, doing a lot of track work, you'd imagine they spend a lot of time in terms of the finishing. And when you look at the race itself, within 600 metres, Kipsang and Kipchoge were very close. It's that last 600 metres where Kipchoge had a burst of energy and that track speed, and therefore won the race. And congratulations to him. We didn't call it. We thought it was going to be Kipsang and Kimetto, but he's won his first London Marathon, so well done to him.
Okay, to be honest with you, we didn't call anything, because also even in the women's race, we were talking about the fantastic form of the Kenyans, and the Ethiopian comes through to win it all. So, like most fans, we're just going to sit back and enjoy the marathon running. There's plenty more athletics going on this summer, and we look forward to talking about it all. But let's quickly switch, because I know from reading Twitter, a lot more of you are talking about basketball these days, and the NBA playoffs are in full swing. So joining us to discuss the standout African players so far and other basketball news, we have sports journalist, Ante Jukic. Ante, hello.
Hi, how are we?
How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you, mate?
Not too bad at all. Now, Ante, really, for most fans, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not picking up that any team is more followed than any other within African basketball fans, but what we do follow are the star players, and in particular, we've got a player that you want to tell us a bit more about. Can you go to tell us about the standout player from the NBA over the weekend?
Well, definitely from this morning's games, Alfred Camino was a standout for Dallas. He got about was 16 points and 12 rebounds for the Mavs this morning in their win against Houston. He came in as a replacement for Richard Jefferson, who was in turn a replacement for Chandler Parsons, who's out for the rest of the season. It's just one of those funny things in playoff basketball where he's a matchup problem for the other side, and he definitely did that on both sides of the floor for the Mavs.
Okay, for fans that don't know at home, actually, Al Farouk is also qualified and does in fact play for Nigeria. But he was born in Atlanta, if I remember rightly.
Yes, that he was, and then he played at the 2012 Olympics for Nigeria.
Okay, so we will be following that closely. How's this team faring? They've gone on through safely?
Well, they've saved themselves from being swept by Houston this morning, but Aminu played very well. Like I said, on both sides of the floor, he went 6 for 10 shooting from field goal range. He got 3 for 5 in 3-point range. But it was more so the fact that he was able to defend James Harden the way he was, although he was playing as a small forward for the Mavs this morning. The thing is, when he switched off the pick and roll for Dallas as Houston tried to get him isolated onto James Harden, he was able to defend him well one-on-one.
Well, James Harden, actually, Anthony, I want to jump in there because James Harden, along with Steph Curry, 2 of the early favourites for the season's MVP, am I correct?
Definitely, and people are saying James Harden is a more worthy candidate for MVP because he's doing more with a lot less, and he's really having to carry Houston. And he definitely was doing that during the regular season when Dwight Howard was out of the lineup.
Okay. Well, another question I want to ask you, those are players that we will be looking at, and everyone loves to follow a basketball star. But what about in terms of which of the series going on at the moment has caught your eye?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting considering in the Eastern Conference there's quite a large disparity between the top 2 and 3 teams and the rest of the conference. The only real series of any note for a neutral is probably the San Antonio Spurs and Los Angeles Clippers series. This morning it went to 2-2 after Chris Paul hit 34 points, and the Clippers put in a really, really gritty performance, especially with the likes of Blake Griffin getting 19 rebounds.
Okay. Well, as ever, I said, lots of stars to follow, lots of matches to follow. Ante, we'll come back to you next week for another update on the playoffs, but thank you for being with us.
No dramas. My pleasure.
Okay, Carlos, some basketball action there, but we mentioned a little at the top of the show. I want to come back to it. There was 6. This is now going back to the team of the year in the Premier League. We've only got a couple of minutes left of the show, so I'm sure people will look at that. 6 Chelsea players in the team of the year. What goes into that decision? Because I'm an Arsenal fan. I thought Sanchez deserved to be in there. But then also I thought Coquelin as a defensive midfielder, if you remove the big names you have, has actually been very, very good this year. He's changed the team and helped a team like Arsenal answer questions. So surely, for all that Matic has done for a Chelsea or whatever, he should be part of the mix. What drives that sort of decision by players?
I think you also have to look at the, how long the player's been doing it. I think Matic has been in the Chelsea squad right from the beginning, and his levels have been the same throughout, as have Hazard, as has Terry. I think when you look at someone like Sanchez, very important for Arsenal, carried them through a lot of games, but in the recent weeks, he hasn't shown the same level of goal scoring perhaps he did at the beginning. And I also think, as you go throughout the season, the tempo of different players change. And Fabregas, for instance, wasn't in there. I don't believe. No. So if that was done earlier in the season, he definitely would have been because he's creating so many chances for Chelsea.
Okay. And then just before we move on to look at maybe 1 or 2 of the refereeing decisions he picked up earlier, I want to pick up on Eden Hazard as the player of the season. Again, highly influential, obviously, in helping his team win. Was it fair? I mean, again, we're looking at Sanchez got nominated. Harry Kane won the Young Player of the Year, but he's done a lot for Tottenham and emerged in the season. But are you satisfied with the choice of Hazard?
Yeah.
Some talk of De Gea?
Yeah, no. I think, all players mentioned within the ballot, are deserving to be there. But when you look at winning the actual trophy, coming from a team who has led for quite a while now, a player who's shown the most amount of consistency, and he's done it in all the big games. So I think he's well deserved. Harry Kane, also very well deserved Young Player of the Year. Okay,
now we talked a little bit about refereeing decisions earlier. We can't go into the whys and wherefores of whether it was offside. But what I do want to ask you, now that we see the penalties and the price you pay for being relegated, looking at the decisions that affected Villa especially, is it time for technology in the Premier League?
I think technology, it really depends. If we started speaking about every decision that happened in the penalty box, we'll have a stop-start game, and it'll be a bit like rugby league or American football, and that's not what football fans want to see.
So, in a word, no.
In a word, no, I think the goal line technology is enough for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos. As ever, it's been a pleasure having you with us. And also, thank you to Ante, who joined us earlier to take us through some of the NBA playoff action. For you at home, as ever, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Use that hashtag SNA Conversation to join in with your own opinions and queries and be part of Africa's sporting conversation.